So the other day I popped out a community post to try and gauge where everyone sat between the whole Doom 2016 and Doom Eternal argument, I guess. And big surprise, the majority of everyone voted for Doom Eternal. And I was reading through all the comments, and I think out of the 100 plus comments, this is probably the best one to sum everything up, which says, it's simple for me. Doom Eternal plays better, looks better, and feels better, but Doom 2016 is a better Doom game. 2016 had the perfect pacing and blend of story and gameplay, whereas 2016's combat was lackluster when compared to Eternal's. The same can be said for Eternal's story comparing it to 2016. All in all, neither game is better than the other, because they try to do completely different things, and I think that very last sentence rings true, because initially that was what this video was going to be, a loose comparison between Doom Eternal and Doom 2016, but ultimately when you boil it down, both games do what they set out to do very well, and they even excel at what they're trying to do. Comparing the two, in my opinion, is like comparing your sex drive from when you're 28 to when you're 7. You're obviously not going to be slaying no pussy when you're 7, now are you? If you are, that's either a serious problem or we should all be applauding you. Either way, it's something that objectively really doesn't make that much sense. The combat system arguably is different, and you can flame me all you want for saying this, but I never got sucked into Doom 2016 the way I did in Doom Eternal. Hell, I only beat 2016 twice, developed a serious addiction to the multiplayer for a solid month, and then I put the game down and never touched it again until yesterday. Meanwhile, I almost exclusively played Doom Eternal for an entire year, and I'm still somehow squeezing content on it. That is a testament to how great id Software's new weak point system is in Doom Eternal. Now before I go back to praising Eternal, let's talk about my very embarrassing first time. In 2016, and to give you all of a background of my experience in gaming, I grew up on a very tasteful, self-loving, respected franchise that unfortunately these days is a cheap soulless whore that couldn't give a damn about your experience. I'm of course talking about Call of Duty. Going from Call of Duty to Doom 2016 before Eternal was ever announced, my first very thought that came to mind was, this gameplay is slow. Maybe they should add in a slide or a dash or a sprint. And then obviously you have power-ups and the platforming and all these other things to actually boost movement, but keep in mind this is coming from the same person that uttered, I should be able to aim down sight in this game. I know what you're thinking, don't worry, as soon as I said that, I put myself to bed immediately. That is a flat earth quote that should not be respected. I knew better back then, even when I didn't play Doom. But in a nutshell, that was ultimately my experience. I found the combat to be whatever, beyond the glory kills and how gory the game was. The environments and the boss fights are really what kept a lasting impression on me, and of course the music. And back then, even though the combat didn't capture me, which is kind of tragic because that's the main point of a Doom game, I still couldn't say it was a bad game or I hated the game because of everything else. It flowed so beautifully that it wasn't a bad game, and I seen where everyone else was coming from in terms of loving the combat. It just didn't hook me in for whatever reason. Fast forward to Eternal, and now I see where people were coming from with 2016. I see in retrospect what id Software was probably trying to do with 2016, with fast weapon switching and utilizing your entire arsenal instead of just relying on the Gauss cannon or your super shotgun or the rocket launcher. Maybe they were trying to emphasize you utilizing your whole arsenal rather than just relying on 2 weapons, or maybe they didn't know, and that was just something they wanted to implement in Eternal, and I'm giving them too much credit. That's also a possibility. I'm just saying, it wasn't until Eternal's quote-unquote restricted combat that I was able to go back in 2016 and really appreciate 2016 in its entirety. Well, people are going from Doom Eternal back to 2016 and they're saying Eternal ruined 2016 for them because the gameplay is too slow. I'm over here like, no, that's the game, I remember it. That's the same game. And it almost sounds like I'm defending the fact that you can play 2016 with just 2 weapons throughout the entire campaign. I'm not. I'm also not knocking it, you know, you do what works for you. I'm not on any of that elitist crap. I'm just basically saying that Eternal has made me appreciate what games try to do rather than what you want them to do, and how well they execute what they're trying to do. And I think in its own way, this can kind of run into its own video or its own argument between developers' vision on a game and gamers' vision on a game, and how that impacts sequels and how that gets people in an uproar because the follow-ups to a really good game change so much that it can potentially alienate the player base from the original game, or it seems like it's more invested in bringing more people rather than pleasing the fan base that it already has, which can either be extremely detrimental or extremely successful to the brand. And there's plenty of companies and plenty of games that have done that in the past. I can't think of any right now, but I'm sure they're out there. Any ones that come to mind, feel free to share them down below. I'd be more than happy to actually take a look at that. But 2016 to Eternal doesn't do that. Instead, it refines itself. The only thing that objectively changes is the aesthetic, maybe some animations, the music. Obviously, the environments change. You don't want to be in the same UAC corridors every level between both games. But the main meat and potatoes there, the combat, has just improved. And while it is true, Eternal does help you become a better player at other first-person shooters, and really, to a degree, all games in general, for me, it goes a step further. It helps me appreciate overall level design and enemy balancing. And like I said a moment ago, it helps me appreciate how well systems are implemented into the game and whether you're adequately pushed to take advantage of the new systems that the developers put in place. As an example, what I'm talking about is just look at the weak point system. During your entire run of Doom Eternal, not once are you told you have to take out a demon's weak point. The only way to kill an Arachnotron is not to get rid of its turn. And even then, if it was, you don't have to get rid of it with just sticky bombs. You can use precision bolt, you can use the ballista, you can use a quick hit from your blood punch if you just want to get rid of the turret really quick and then just move on. Back when I did all my Ultra Nightmare guides, I had so many comments of people asking me how to play the game, and if you look at those guides, a lot of the times I leave in my mistakes, because Eternal's one of those games where you can fuck up 2 or 3 or even 4 times. It's actually a really forgiving game that even on Ultra Nightmare you can recover. And no matter how good or how bad of a player you are, no one can tell you you're playing the game right or wrong, because there's so many variables in place that there is no right way to play the game. You know, even people choose different weapon mods or different weapon combinations altogether. Some people don't even play with the ballista. Other people play with nothing but super shotgun and ballista. I'm sure some people play the entire game without even going for weak points as well. That shit probably takes forever, but it's not impossible. Going against the weak points probably just makes the game feel a little bit more like 2016, just with the stricter ammo pool. And that's something else I wanted to kind of wrap this video up with. Well, everyone said Eternal felt more restricting. I felt 2016 was. I felt like there was nothing that special as far as enemies went. I felt like the majority of demons were just bullet sponges, and there really wasn't a difference in terms of fighting demons besides just the health pool. You know, the difference between fighting a Calico demon and a Mancubus in 2016 was just a matter of a few extra shots, and that was it. Which can probably still be the same thing in Eternal, but because of the weak point system, I can kill it faster. Fuck. Anyways, I hope this wasn't a rambling video. Let's be honest, it probably was, but I'm gonna wrap this up here. In short, where Eternal basically ruined 2016 for a lot of people, for me, it made me appreciate it more for those that actually enjoy it. Whereas before, I didn't really see the pull of it because I felt the combat was just kind of lackluster even prior to Eternal's releasing. Retrospectively, the sequel actually helped me appreciate the original even more and what exactly id Software was trying to do with it. But let me know what you guys think down in the comment section below. This is probably a topic that's been beaten to death, but I wanted to inject my own experience from 2016 to Eternal in a way without really directly comparing them, as I don't feel like it's a really fair comparison ultimately. But like always, guys, my name is Cynic. Thank you all so much for watching. If you guys haven't joined the Discord yet, link to that is down in the pinned comment. It's a good time. All you gotta do is look at the pinned comments from the Discord and get a feel for the environment. But until next time, I'll see y'all later.